The US makes no mistake in their second game of the FIBA World Cup as they take down Greece 109-81. After a not so convincing performance against New Zealand in the first game, this performance was extremely convincing. And apart from maybe Greece getting off to a little bit of a hot start, hitting all their floaters, Papagiannis couldn't miss and had like 11 points in the first half. But you knew that was never going to last. And the US, just with an all around attack, really just dismantled Greece from start to finish. But maybe not the very start, like the very start when Greece was getting a few open floaters, it was like maybe this is a little bit worrying. Like they were putting Jaren Jackson in the action in the pick and roll, and then I think he was guarding Thanasis Antetokounmpo, or at least he was later in the game, and I think he started on him, and he was just sagging off him so much because it's like, sure you can shoot, but then they were putting him in the pick and roll, and then Jaren was so far back that they were just hitting floaters and open middies against him. But like I said, that wasn't gonna last because Greece just didn't really have the talent for that. If we're being honest, I mean they have a good team, and this is a good Greek team even without Giannis, which is why the U.S. demolishing them is a pretty good sign. We did see why the Kings drafted Papagiannis with the 13th overall pick. I still remember where I was when we drafted him, and I was pretty upset that we drafted him. I guess I knew that he was gonna suck, and he did, but he didn't suck to start this game. He was hitting all the hook shots and even outside shots. But it was Jalen Brunson early for the US, and then really the bench for the US continues to be better than the starters. Jalen Brunson went 5 for 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, chipped in 2 assists, only 1 turnover. And for Brunson, it was really the case of just whenever he got to his spot, you knew he was just going to raise up from the mid range and knock it down. But he wasn't forcing anything, which is why he went perfect from the field. So I think he's kind of settled into a role. And I mean, that's the key for the US, I think, is everyone settling into their role. And some guys, I think, did that quicker than others. You have a guy like Cam Johnson, who, and Mikal Bridges, they know how to play their role on this team because they have been, or still are, the role player on their team. Whereas a guy like Brandon Ingram, he talked about after the last game how he just like doesn't know what he's doing out there, and he's really struggling. But then he was like, the team's winning, so I don't want to be selfish. And he struggled again in this one. I mean, 5 points. I talked about it after the last game. Like, he's been pretty disappointing. He's traveling with the ball, turning it over. He just can't find his spots. He isn't contributing to the ball movement as much as he probably should. And at first, I thought that was okay in the exhibition games because I thought he would be able to just rise up and knock down shots. He can be a scorer for this team, but like he's not even scoring. It's been a real rough one for Brandon Ingram, and I really hope that at some point he can have himself a game. But right now, when he's not scoring, he's really not contributing in other ways. He is allowing his man to get offensive rebounds. He's not been a great defender. Like it's been really rough. And then you had Ant struggle a little more shooting in this game, but he still was going to get his shots up. That's just kind of what being a number one guy is. He's going to have some games where he doesn't knock everything down. He went 4 for 11, but that was not a problem, especially with the bench offense. I think Mikal Bridges, like I talked about, he knows his role. He knows when to attack the rim, when to just spot up for three. And the U.S. started a little slow from three, but then started knocking him down and ended up shooting 40%. But the one thing that I was kind of watching for in this game was Jaren Jackson Jr. and his foul trouble, because he fouled out in the last game, and he talked about it after the game, saying he's not going to change his approach, which You know, that was like kind of concerning. But it's really just the dumb fouls that he needs to stop, committing. The ones where he's just fouling someone on a rebound for no reason. If he's contesting a shot and he fouls a guy, it is what it is because that's his job. But it's the other fouls, the offensive fouls even, that he needs to cut out. And he did in this game, only two fouls, and he got two steals, two blocks. Did his thing defensively, so banked in a three. That was great. And so I thought he had himself a pretty good game. Fouls were definitely a big part of this game. Everyone's talking about the physicality of FIBA, and I'm not seeing it. Like these refs are calling it pretty tight, I think, uh, from a physicality standpoint. I mean, you have Austin Reaves still baiting for fouls, and the refs are calling the fouls. He's somehow still getting away with it. Austin Reaves is just that good at drawing fouls. The same with Paolo in a different way, right? Because Paolo doesn't do it in a as much of a finesse way, more of a power way with him. But Paolo got to the line 8 times, knocked down 6 of them, which is good. And then Reaves was a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. And overall, the U.S. shot 30 for 34 from the free throw line. And Greece only attempted 16 free throws. And they went 8 for 16 because Thanasis missed like 4 in a row at one point. The U.S. was just able to get into the lane, and that was why they were drawing so many fouls. And again, it was the backups. It was the Halliburton, Austin Reaves, Paolo Banchero. Like those three are the key off the bench. And then, Josh Hart had a good game as well. Cam Johnson, uh, not so much, but he knocked a couple threes down later, but he struggled early. But that bench unit is so good offensively. And I don't even really see the drop off defensively, at least not in this one. Like I think early in the exhibition games we kind of were, but I didn't really see that at all. It was kind of the starters were just keeping the game like kind of close, like they were ahead by a little bit, and then the bench would come in and just extend the lead. And it's Halliburton pushing in transition, feeding guys like Cam Johnson for three. You have Josh Hart getting 5 offensive rebounds and 6 defensive rebounds. That's insane. How did he get 11 rebounds? He's a bench player. It doesn't make sense how he's such a good rebounder. And then you have, Austin Reaves, like I said, getting to the foul line, but he's just been one of the best offensive players for this team. I would say the best players so far for the US have been Anthony Edwards, and then it's been like Halliburton, Reaves, Banchero, and then maybe like Brunson, at least from an offensive standpoint, because obviously, you know, Jaren Jackson Jr. is doing his thing defensively, and Mikal Bridges as well. And why does everyone in the Philippines love Austin Reaves? Are they just all Lakers fans? Like, I'm confused. It's just funny seeing how everyone was like, oh, Austin Reaves is way overhyped coming into this, which I think is still true. He gets probably too, he definitely gets too much attention just because he's a Laker. Um, but he's been awesome. And, just because I say that he gets too much attention doesn't mean that he's not a really good player, because he is. And the Lakers got a steal on his contract this summer. And it was interesting in the first half, the US only went with a 10-man rotation as opposed to the 11-man that they were running before. And I think a lot of that is just due to Paolo cementing himself as the backup five. And because he was so great in the first game and he was really good in this one, I think his role has really expanded in the 2 World Cup games so far as opposed to the exhibition games. But then they put Bobby Portis in the second half, and he just starts hitting everything. He went 4 for 5 from the field, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. He was getting boards, getting steals. Like that's the depth of the U.S. team. Obviously, you just have their 11th man coming in the second half who didn't play in the first half, and he just comes in and is hitting all these turnaround jumpers and stuff. Just the utmost confidence. And I love Bobby Portis. I love his energy. He's a fun player to watch and easy to root for, I think. Some other things that have kind of surprised me. Paolo Banchero, his passing has been pretty solid, I think. He was really finding Austin Reaves on good skip passes, I think. And then Austin Reaves was either shooting out of that or creating out of that himself. And Austin Reaves led the team in assists. His passing was solid, although there were a few wild ones, but that's okay. And then another thing, I feel like I've mentioned this every game, but it's just like it's something I'm watching every time, and it's Halliburton's defense. Because in this one, he's going up against a guy in the paint, and he just blocks his shot just straight up. I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? And then he like, I don't know if he blocked. Oh yeah, he got credit. 3 blocks. He like blocked 2 other guys' jumpers. And it's like that. I mean, that's his length. But then you see him, and he just like dies around screens. Like he doesn't fight over screens, or he'll just get lost in the middle of nowhere. And it's just like I don't know. Like what are you doing? So he's such an up and down player defensively. And so I feel like in some ways by some people he's gonna be overrated defensively, and by some people he's gonna be underrated because some people are gonna see all the blocks and steals that he gets and be like, wow, he's a great defender. And then some people are gonna be looking at him, getting blown by or not fighting over a screen and be like he sucks. When really it's like, I mean, he's somewhere in between. I mean, and that's why physical attributes are so important to defense because even if you're not the most skilled defender, I guess, like Halliburton, I mean, he's skilled at baiting passes and then stealing them, but he's not skilled at staying with his man laterally, but then he just has the long arms and he has anticipation to be able to use them. And then the last guy is Walker Kessler. He came in the fourth quarter in garbage time, but I loved his celebrations throughout the whole game on the bench. That's his contribution. But then he came in and immediately was just blocking shots. Like his first play of the game was blocking a shot, and then he blocked another one, and he affected another one, and then he got like been moved, dunked on by Thanasis, and then he goes to the other end and dunks the ball. So it was just kind of a fun Walker Kessler garbage time experience. And then he goes to the foul line, misses both free throws. It's just like, whoa, a lot of stuff going on in garbage time for Walker Kessler. But I mean, the thing that impresses me with Walker Kessler is just how accurate he is at blocking shots. Like a guy will just be doing something crazy with the ball and he'll still just get a hand to it. Even if it's like way off to the side, he'll just get his hand to it somehow. And it's really impressive. The US's last game is against Jordan at 1:40 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. I'm just now looking at that. That is rough. But honestly, for me, that might be better than the 5:30s because I'll just stay up for that one, I guess. But Jordan, although they're 0-2, they're scary. Rondé Hollis Jefferson had like 39 points, including a game-tying 4-point play to send it to overtime in this last game for them. And he's not even in the NBA anymore, but he's averaging in the 2 games like 31 and a half points per game. He's been going crazy and getting Kobe Bryant comparisons. But he actually looks like he's moving like Kobe. It's crazy. But that game doesn't really matter for the U.S. I mean, it matters, I think, probably in seeding. But the U.S. is through to the knockout stage. I think Anthony Edwards is just going to be so important, especially against the better opponents and in the important games. Because you could see even in this one, he was kind of struggling with his shot, but he was just going to keep shooting. He was going to keep attacking. And he knows he's the guy. And Steve Kerr has given him that confidence. So I think that's huge, just to have a guy that knows he is the guy. And so he'll be super important. It seems like Canada at this point is the US's biggest competition. I mean, they've looked great. They demolished France, and France then lost to Latvia. So France is out, and they are just lucky that they are hosting the Olympics, so they get an automatic bid, or else they would not have qualified for the Olympics. But yeah, Canada has looked great so far, and then they demolished, I believe it was Lebanon. So they're definitely a scary team. Slovenia, also just a scary team because Luka is Luka, and he's doing Luka things, just carrying Slovenia every game. And then you obviously have a team like Serbia that's also scary, along with your Spains of the world. And I would say France, but they are out, so no, they are not scary. Also, one thing I forgot to mention about this game is Paulo got robbed of that great block. That was a clean block, and Paulo's rim protection has been great so far, and he is just so athletic. Also, Jaren Jackson Jr. owns Thanasis Antetokounmpo. He blocked him like 2 times within 15 seconds. That was pretty funny. But anyways, that is it for this episode, and I will be back sometime after that US Jordan game on Wednesday. So I will see you guys then. Peace.